Hirsch, the Executive Director of EdReports, and we're really excited to share the results and process around our high school mathematics review. With me is Tim Truitt, our high school mathematics content specialist, and we're so excited to have one of our fantastic reviewers, Carolyn Viss, the Director of Stanislaus County's Office of Education in Mathematics. Into high school, I thought I'd share a little bit about EdReports and why we are here providing instructional materials reviews for the field. And so much of that is captured in this sentence in the publisher's criteria for the Common Core State Standards for Math, that publishers are equally responsible for a healthy materials market. Publishers cannot deliver focus to buyers who only ever complain about what has been left out, yet never complain about what has crept in. More generally, publishers cannot invest in quality if the market doesn't demand it of them, nor reward them for producing it. We at EdReports and our board of directors were thinking a lot about that last sentence and thinking if the appropriate information really was available to schools and districts and states around the market to really help shape that demand. So we here at EdReports, by working with fantastic educators who work directly with kids and teachers all day, work to identify excellence, look at alignment with college and career-ready standards, and the instructional shifts that are necessary to make those standards really work for kids. We know identifying excellence alone is not enough. We hope to increase demand for excellence to hold that second end of that value proposition in the previous slide by making sure our reports are utilized and empower local districts as they make adoption and adaptation decisions in curriculum they may have already purchased. With that, we hope the market will respond so there'll be more and more high-quality materials leading to better outcomes for kids. And we know that connection between that third and fourth circle really is out there. The impact of quality instructional materials on student achievement can be as large as the quality of instruction in teachers with children. In one study, the average cost-effectiveness ratio of switching to a higher quality curriculum was almost 40 times that of class size reduction. Looks out there and looks at the materials available. Many are still finding that it's challenging to find materials that are fully aligned with Common Core state standards and other college and career-ready standards. And in our own survey of teachers, as we were thinking about our review process and launching, only 37% of teachers nationwide believe that their district or school's instructional materials are aligned with the Common Core. We know districts are investing huge amounts of money and teachers so much time in trying to find what they need to make sure kids can become college and career ready. With that, why don't I turn it over to you, Tim, so you can delve a bit deeper into our high school math review tool, our review process, and ultimately our findings from our review of the first 14 three-course sequences we looked at.
To begin, as Eric mentioned, we'll talk about how we designed, or the design of our review tool that we used for high school mathematics. As you can see on this slide, our high school mathematics tool is divided into 3 gateways. Gateway 1 looks at focus and coherence together. In our tool for high school mathematics, we decided to not separate focus and coherence into separate criterions during our review process. So what that means is all of the indicators in Gateway 1 are looking at focus and coherence together. Some might lean a little more toward the focus side, and others might lean a little more toward the coherence criterion, but each indicator in Gateway 1 has a role in looking at focus and coherence together as we review high school series. We criterion that looks at the aspect of rigor. It looks for the development of conceptual understanding, proficiency, and application across the series of materials. And it also looks to see if those three aspects of rigor have an appropriate balance within the materials. And then also in Gateway 2, we have a mathematical practices, and about the mathematical practices on our next slide to describe how we review those. Gateway 3 is very similar to our K-8 tool that we use to review mathematics instructional materials. Gateway 3 looks at instructional supports and other usability indicators such as technology, assessment, and professional learning for teachers that accompany the instructional materials. And within the first gateway, a series is criteria, partially meet criteria or not meet the alignment criteria in Gateway 1. If it meets or partially meets within Gateway 1, then it moves on to Gateway 2. And if it meets criteria in both Gateways 1 and 2, then it moves on to Gateway 3, where it is reviewed again for instructional supports and other usability indicators. Intentionally, in high school, we are reviewing series of materials. So we're looking at a traditional series, Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, in any order that a publisher might deem appropriate. Graded series, integrated 1, 2, and 3. The entire series. We do not look at individual courses by themselves. We look at the series as a whole. Very intentional with our high school tool in thinking about the modeling process as defined by the College and Career Readiness Standards for Mathematics. And indicator in particular in Gateway 1, it's indicator 1AII, on the inclusion and use of the modeling process in the high school series. And we also, as mentioned, have an indicator for application in Gateway 2 and Practice 4 in Gateway 2 as well. And as I previously mentioned on the mathematical practices, look for the development of the mathematical practices sort of in pairs across the series of materials. They don't have to occur in pairs within the materials, but as we developed the tool and looked across the field and different groups, we determined that it was best to pair the mathematical practices as you see on this slide, practices 1 and 6, 2 and 3, 4 and 5, and 7 and 8. And so when we write our reports based on those pairs for the high school series. So that's about what it looks like and some specific things within the high school review tool. Now, our review teams. EdReports, over 1,000 applicants to be members of our content review team. We currently have educators that have been trained and are reviewing within the EdReports network. Those educators come from 46 states and a diverse set of roles. Classroom educators, folks working at a district or county level, all the way up to folks working in State Department of Education. Once we have selected reviewers, we place them into clusters or teams of 4, and one of the reviewers on the team is designated as a lead. Each cluster is assigned a calibrator who works with actually 2 clusters to ensure the reliability of applying our tool 2 series of materials across clusters. And then we also actually have a role above calibrators, a lead calibrator who works across all of the high school teams to look for consistency of evidence within the reports, to ensure that evidence that is the same across series is leading to similar scoring, and also to begin to look for tone and voice within the reports as they're written. For the review process, before I turn it over to Carolyn, who will kind of go more in depth, sort of already outlined this a little bit, but again, our review teams, first, they go through an extensive interview process. We select the reviewers, we train them, either face-to-face, and now we've actually started to develop some virtual training for reviewers. One of the first things each cluster does, they come together, they develop norms for their group, schedule meeting times. They also participate in a publisher orientation for the series of materials that has been assigned to them. They then individually spend time each week reviewing the materials on their own, writing down evidence, looking across all of the materials for the indicator that's been assigned for that week. And then each week, the cluster comes together in a 1-hour call and come to a consensus score for the indicator. And then as the lead reviewers start writing the reports, and the calibrators and the team leads and the calibrators work together to write the reports and start getting those ready for final product. And with that sort of framework in place, I'll turn it over to Carolyn and let her talk more about her experiences as a reviewer and say more about the review process.
The first is that this idea of working as a reviewer for instructional materials is very specialized work. An experience that I had in my 20 or so years as a direct mathematics instructor, as well as coaching in laying a foundation for me to be able to provide viable information for the content team. And that EdReports provided on the use of their tool was really critical to help me and to help our team to provide that would be valid and that would be informative. And the reason that I was interested in participating in this work at all is because of the impact that I know that instructional materials have on students in the classroom. And that's really the bottom line for me and for this EdReports team, is we want to make a difference in what teachers have in their hands and what students have in front of them, that the materials be of high quality and aligned with the expectations that we have with our standards. The reviewer was really a positive one for me. It was certainly not an easy one. We, as an individual, spent 5 and sometimes 10 hours a week over a period of months. Not just a single high school mathematics book, but 3 years. So a series of 3 courses, really encompassing the high school students' experience of mathematics at that grade span. The great benefit of that was the ability to look for and review how the content and the materials create a trajectory of learning for students over that sequence of time. The ability to focus and the coherence that Tim referenced and see how it develops along with the student's understanding. The central ideas of function across the work of high school mathematics, I was able to see evidence of that growing with students across their learning. The engagement engage deeply in the mathematics. That was something that as a review team we were very deeply interested in, and really looking for college and career readiness. So being a math teacher for so many years, I had an experience of materials that in many cases were not allowing or requiring students to work with the focus and coherence that our standards now expect to prepare students for college and for career. And so I was able to see really some innovative ways that some of our materials get at that. I came with this most recent round of adoptions in my state. Previously been a part of adoption cycles and were brought out to school districts and to county offices and to book fairs with the new Common Core sticker on the front. And in some cases, a few cases, the content within hadn't actually changed at all. I think about my experience as a reviewer, it's an opportunity for me to be another set of eyes for classroom teachers, for school sites, for districts, to kind of look behind the sticker and really focused and intense and specialized work to provide educators with the information that they need to support their students.
Or such of the process and what your review cluster was looking for as they were reviewing materials. At this point with EdReports for high school mathematics, we have reports for 14 instructional series. Series that fully met our alignment and usability criteria, and those 3 series are Core Plus Mathematics from McGraw-Hill Education, and then both the integrated and traditional sequences from the CPM educational program. We had 3 series that partially met our criteria for alignment. Those were the traditional and integrated series from Carnegie Learning, along with Eureka Math from Great Minds. And the remaining series did not meet our criteria for focus and coherence in Gateway 1. And those are the integrated and traditional series from Big Ideas Learning, the CEME traditional series from Pearson, Glencoe traditional series from McGraw-Hill Education, the integrated series from HMH, the integrated and traditional series from Pearson, and the Springboard traditional series from the College Board. This far from the review, again, with only having 14 series reviewed, we're certainly not beginning to make any sweeping conclusions or anything like that, but just some things that we've noted and are keeping an eye on as we move forward and continue to review. Approximately 1/4 of the series meet or partially meet expectations in regards to incorporating the modeling process. Again, that's indicator 1A in Gateway 1. Almost all of the series meet expectations for incorporating the widely applicable prerequisites as defined by the publisher's criteria for high school mathematics. That is indicator 1BI in our review and reports. All in Gateway 2 met expectations for rigor. So again, the development of the 3 aspects of rigor along with those 3 aspects being there in balance. And a couple of things that we're certainly keeping our eye on moving forward is repetitive content in series from publishers where a publisher has made both a traditional and integrated series. We're just looking to see how different the traditional and integrated series are. And we're also really looking with the mathematical practices at how the materials support the intentional development of the mathematical practices. and students within the materials. And we'll turn it back over to Eric to talk about our website some more.
Great, thanks, Tim. So in terms of finding the 14 high school reports, or our several grades 3 through 8 ELA reports and its way, as well as K-8 mathematics, are all available at EdReports.org. The area where we know folks go to the most is the compare function, which you can see on the left-hand side of the slide, where you can look by gateway for gateway 1, then see the point totals and see whether it met, partially met, or did not meet our criteria. If you click on any of those to show the report, it moves you into the detailed evidence for each indicator, set of criterion, and gateway, and these are extensive. Our hope is by documenting evidence thoroughly, it will help empower local districts and states, regardless of their standards, to really understand what's inside, and as Carolyn rightly said, what's under the sticker, and whether or not the materials there really not only cover all of the standards, but the shifts necessary to make them come alive. So you can see each of the detailed reports. In addition to the compare and the reports, you can download both our tool and indicators that Tim gave a summary of if you click on the About section of the website. And you can also see our evidence guides, the direct instruction that is given to our review teams for them to process and look through as they go about reviewing. So what kinds of things to look for in evidence, the kinds of questions to discuss during those weekly meetings that Carolyn discussed, all the way down to scoring guidance to help make sure everybody is looking at these indicators in similar ways. You can also see a tab across where you can look at materials under review. We have a host of K-8 and high school materials under review now that have not been published. And you can see on the right that you can click there and tell us what you're using and see if it's on our radar for future reviews. I'd love to turn it over back to you in your day job in Stanislaus County, as well as the knowledge you've gained as an EdReports reviewer, to talk about how these reports may be used in school districts and schools.
Generally, just thinking about the significance of materials in instruction. Eric, you referenced this early on in the presentation today, that the impact of those materials are about the professional development that teachers and schools are engaging in. The EdReports guides reviews can help to establish priorities for those decisions as teachers are deciding what their needs are. The reviews contain really detailed information on specific strengths within the places that might need some supplementation or augmentation. In place within schools and common formative assessments are another great way to apply the content of the reviews through EdReports. They can priorities and time spent with PLCs within a grade level, within a content team in the high school mathematics world. And even beyond the physical plant of our school sites, there are parents and other stakeholders to actually have a back-end view of the materials that their students are engaged with. I just want to at the bottom of the slide here. The process is an important step to securing better materials. Selecting high-quality materials will transform the way a generation of students will be taught. This idea of adoption. I have had the honor of being part of supporting site and district teams in the adoption process. in California. We have gone through just several years of opportunities, and districts have let their local needs. And ways that districts have used the EdReports materials is really to, so we had 30 plus materials that the state of California opened up for school districts to adopt at the high school level. Now, that's a lot of materials for an individual teacher or a school site to look at and have time to have a meaningful, deep look into those materials. Several of the districts that I've worked with have used EdReports as kind of a look. What are the materials that I want to spend some more time in based on the reviews that I'm seeing? And if I'm seeing that some pieces are partially met or fully met through the review process, then that's maybe a set of materials that I want to invest some more time in as a school site. We have also used with districts that I'm supporting, once the adoption process is completed, to use those evidence guides, use the alignment within the indicators to adjust the instruction, to adjust the assessment, and to guide the work that district and department teams are engaged in supporting their mathematical learners within their districts. Adopted, that's really the place where I'm seeing these materials being used. One of the districts that I'm supporting used a set of materials, and the selection that they made was for a series that partially meets alignment according to the review document. And so they have now been able to use those reports to, as I said, to figure out where the strengths are and them to augment, to supplement, and to provide additional experiences for their students. So whether the adoption is in place or not, the reports and the evidence provided on the EdReports were used by educators in my area and across the state, across the nation. That I as a read 3 textbooks across the span of high school work. That was over 3,000 pages of content for each of the material sets. And so providing teachers with an opportunity to have sort of a first look done for them by an outside nonprofit agency is a great way to empower people to move forward and make good decisions about their materials.
And it's because of your hard work and effort, and we know all our reviewers are putting in about 5 to 10 hours a week on top of their day job, making sure either teachers are ready and instructing and being well supported, or working directly with kids. So thank you, because the reason those reports can be utilized in that way is your painstakingly fantastic diligence and efforts over the course of months to put it together. Perhaps this is not the best time to then say, wouldn't you like to do this too? That said, while it is a large time commitment, as Carolyn mentioned, what we hear from our reviewers is that it's also great professional learning. So if you go on our EdReports website, you can certainly apply to become a content reviewer. That is a rolling process, and we look at those as we go. We also encourage you, if you've utilized any of the instructional materials that's been reviewed, we do have a user forum. So hopefully teachers can help other teachers talk about their own experience in actually using these in the classroom. We're doing an instructional materials review, just looking at the materials, and certainly hearing from those who are using them every day to help supplement the evidence that's in our reports will be helpful, and we need all of you out there to help us build that and share your experiences. And finally, it's really easy to share these reports with colleagues, to pin them on your Pinterest site, and a host of other ways to make sure anyone using any of these instructional materials that we've reviewed can benefit from the evidence. So with that, thank you so much for all of you out there for listening in. If you have any questions, comments, thoughts, please don't hesitate to email me, Eric, or Tim, as well as to please check us out on Twitter and Facebook and keep up with all we are trying to accomplish at EdReports. Thank you very much. And thank you, Tim and Carolyn.